Welcome back to another podcast in our Sacramental Prep series. These programs are a production of the Faith Formation team at St. Julie Billiart Catholic Church in San Jose, California. In this series, we'll be exploring the question, are we spiritual beings? Welcome back. This is podcast number 2 in this series of programs. In part 1, we learned that science believes that human beings are a kind of animal, and they believe this for 3 reasons. First of all, science has divided everything in the physical universe into 3 categories: animals, minerals, and vegetables. Where do we fit in? Well, since we aren't plants and we aren't rocks, by process of elimination...
If we're not animals, what are we?
Secondly, our genetic material, our DNA, is very similar to the DNA of animals. In the case of chimpanzees, we share just over 96% of the same genes. This strongly suggests that chimps and humans evolved from a common ancestor. And finally, all animal behavior is determined by 3 animal instincts: the need to feed, the need to fight, and the need to procreate our species by having babies. And although different kinds of animals respond to these instincts in drastically different ways, everything that animals do is driven by one or more of these 3 urges. And when you look at human behavior, it's very easy to see that a great deal of what we do is also determined by our urges to feed, fight, and reproduce. If our behavior is different from that of animals, it's because we have much bigger brains than they do, enabling us to respond to our urges in more sophisticated ways. For example, chimpanzees can use sticks to dig bits of food out of knotholes. This pretty well proves that animals are capable of using tools. Now, humans can also use tools, but because of our superior brain power, human tools are much more sophisticated, and we can do more with them. Now, some people have suggested that this makes us human, that it is this capability that differentiates us from animals. But there's actually a lot more to it than that. To see what I mean, let's look at how chimpanzees respond to one of the 3 basic animal instincts: the urge to fight. And then we'll compare that to the way humans respond to the same urge. When chimpanzees believe that there is a shortage of food, they will feel the urge to fight. They will drive other chimpanzees away from whatever food might be available, so that way they can have it all for themselves. And in the wild, these struggles for food and territory have a way of getting out of hand.
Is this the face of a cold-blooded killer? The science points to yes. New research shows that 90% of chimpanzee males participate in an act of murder, that is, chimp-on-chimp killing, at some point in their lives. Chimpanzees can be aggressive, territorial, and violent. In 2006, the BBC's Planet Earth series broadcasted a coordinated attack by one group of chimps against another. The result was death and cannibalism.
Now, what happens when human beings are confronted with a shortage of food or some other resource? Well, like chimps, we too will feel the urge to fight. But how do we respond to it? Do we try to kill each other the way chimpanzees do? Human beings respond to the urge to fight by thinking up ways to compete for the resources that are available. So instead of trying to kill each other, we look for ways to do things like get more money, maybe go into business, or get a better job. This is our human intelligence making it possible for us to respond to the urge to fight with competition instead of with violence. In this way, our brains can act as a kind of firewall for keeping our animal instincts in check. We can come up with ways to respond to those urges that are more complex, more sophisticated, less violent, and less dangerous. And so scientists have determined that we are very smart animals. Our intellect enables us to keep our animal instincts in check while responding to those instincts in ever more complex and sophisticated ways. So far, so good. But I have a question. Is that enough? I mean, if we really want to prove that we as human beings are something more than just animals, how might we go about doing that? Well, remember that every little thing that animals do is a response either to the urge to feed, the urge to fight, or the urge to procreate. But is that also true of human beings? What if we found something that human beings do that is clearly not motivated by any of these three urges? Something that human beings do that animals would never do. Could there be such a thing? Let's look at an example. The Basics Tijuana ministry tries to eliminate poverty one person or family at a time, face to face. This group's most powerful weapon in the fight against poverty is love. Each summer, they organize groups of volunteers who make week-long trips to the city, and they include all ages, from high school kids to grandparents. And they make the trip to show the people there that they love them, care about them, and want to help them. Our Mothers program focuses on helping the mothers of Tijuana learn from each other how they can provide for their families, prosper, and grow. Teenagers in Tijuana frequently have to take on enormous responsibilities. When the teens of the Tijuana ministry arrive, they invite the local kids to have a little bit of fun. Together, they make crafts, play soccer, or even catch up on some of the latest dance moves. Some of the teens have also joined us in staffing the children's program, which provides similar activities aimed at younger kids. Working people in Tijuana only make about $70 a week. They live in improvised dwellings with dirt floors, leaky roofs, and mold growing on the walls. And so a fire, sickness, or disability leave them with nothing. And so the Tijuana ministry created a program to build houses. These houses are designed and their construction is supervised by professional contractors. They come to Tijuana to work with volunteer laborers from both sides of the border. Basics Tijuana Ministry would like to invite you to help its fight on poverty. Travel to Tijuana with us to volunteer in one of our programs and see and learn about poverty and our efforts. Come share with us in the amazing miracles making a difference with love. The promotional film that you just saw was produced by a nonprofit, the Tijuana Ministry. Every summer, this organization takes a group of volunteers from San Jose, California, one of the wealthiest communities in the Western Hemisphere, to Tijuana, Mexico, which is one of the poorest. There, they spend a week doing all the things that you've just seen in the video. So why did they go? Well, to answer that question, let's hear from one of the people who made the trip a couple of years ago.
What a moving experience it was. You imagine what it must be like. And I try to take it from their perspective, look at it through their eyes. You're in great need of a new house. And here comes a group of people driving over the hill from the United States and builds you a new house, hands you the keys, and gives you this amazing gift. It was a very moving, emotional experience to be part of, and I'm very glad that we did it.
Sometimes human beings do things that are not inspired by our instincts to feed or fight or reproduce. And the Tijuana ministry is just one example of that. I'd like to show you another example. I'd like to share a video with you that I found on YouTube. It was produced by a young lady named Yasmin, and in 2014, she celebrated her 20th birthday. Her celebration involved spending the entire day performing random acts of kindness for complete strangers. And in the description, it says that her brother followed her around, recording the things that she did. That's how the video wound up on YouTube. Now, as you watch this, I'd like you to ask yourself some questions about these acts of kindness. If you still think that when you get right down to it, we are just animals, well, then which of the three animal instincts is inspiring her to do the things that we're watching her do? When she shares these little gifts with people, is she hoping that one of them is going to give her something to eat? She doesn't seem to be looking for food. In fact, if anything, she's giving food away. So I think we can conclude that she's not being motivated in any way by the animal instinct to feed. What about the urge to fight? Is she competing with somebody? Is she trying to outdo some other person to see which one of them can be the kindest? Well, it certainly doesn't look that way. There's nobody else in the video. In fact, the only people that we see are Yasmin herself and the people that she's being kind to. So I think we can eliminate the animal urge to fight as the motivation behind the things that Yasmin is doing. Now that leaves the animal instinct to procreate. Clearly what she's doing has nothing to do with reproducing. Perhaps she's trying to ensure the survival of the human species somehow. Well, none of the people that she's giving things to seem to be particularly hungry, nor are they in any kind of danger. So I don't see any evidence that what she's doing is a response to the urge to procreate the species. So why is Yasmin using her 20th birthday to perform what appears on the surface to be a string of completely senseless acts? She's not benefiting from any of the things that she's doing. She hasn't even monetized the video that we're watching. So in spite of the fact that over 2.8 million people have watched the video since she posted it in 2014, she is still not benefiting from it in any way. And so you can see the link between what she's doing and what the Tijuana ministry did. Both videos are about random acts of kindness, things that they are not paid to do, things from which they do not expect to benefit in any way, things that don't seem to accomplish anything except maybe making the world that they live in a little bit better for everybody. So what is this human behavior? Do we have a name for it? To answer that question, let's take one more look at the Tijuana ministry video, because it turns out it has a pretty important clue. Listen closely.
This group's most powerful weapon in the fight against poverty is love, and they make the trip to show the people there that they love them, care about them, and want to help them. Travel to Tijuana with us to volunteer in one of our programs and see and learn about poverty and our efforts. Come share with us in the amazing miracles making a difference with love.
So what does this have to do with our question of, are we animals or are we spiritual beings? Most human behavior is based on animal instincts to feed, fight, and procreate. But there's some human behavior that's not inspired by these urges. It is this behavior that makes us different from the animals. It is literally what makes us human. And we often use the word love to describe these things. But the word love has many, many different meanings depending on who's using it and in what context. And so next time we'll take a closer look at exactly what we mean by the word love. See you then.